Yeah, I'm different. I'm different. Yeah, I'm different. I'm different. Yeah.
And they went up to 100 right then and there. I mean, I could have been charging the whole time. I think you got to be able to invest in yourself anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, that show people how serious you are. You got to.
2 Chainz, the rapper whose name makes American hip-hop tense up every time he appears. A symbol of wealth and excess. Cash nightclubs, luxury cars, chains so heavy they became symbols of victory. A garage that looks like an authentic Rolls-Royce showroom. Buying a 22-acre farm simply out of boredom. But if you think 2 Chainz is just like other rappers, you are wrong. That is only half the truth. Few people know that 2 Chainz has spent more than 6 figures on charity. According to sources, by the year 2026, that amount had multiplied over time enough to buy another house in Beverly Hills. So how big is 2 Chainz's fortune really? How much money has he actually poured into charity? What was the purpose? Do not look away. Right now, you are about to learn how 2 Chainz transformed illegal money to help veteran families escape homelessness and polish his public image. Root wounds, haunting memories. 2 Chainz's real name. Tauheed Epps was born on September 12, 1977 in College Park, Georgia. 2 Chainz grew up in hardship as the only child. His father went in and out of prison and never held a stable job. So who stayed home? His mother raised him alone. Alone means there was no backup plan. Despite growing up poor, 2 Chainz was a dedicated student. He graduated second in his class at North Clayton High School and was a talented basketball player. It sounded like a way out, but the storm hit when his father was sent back to prison. Once again, 2 Chainz saw himself as the man of the house. But who is the man of the house when that house can disappear at any moment? When bills pile up on the table and no one has enough money to pay them, he started dealing to support his family. And that meant drugs. A dangerous choice for a child who was only 6. He admitted that his mother knew about it and accepted it. A decision, not his alone. A decision that led to constant trips in and out of prison. Time meant for education was slowly eroded. When money became more urgent, then the future knowledge turned into a luxury. During that period, his family fell into debt. Every day was a gamble. Just hearing footsteps at the door made his heart race. The shouting, the threats. All of it meant he never truly slept in peace. His ambition to make money no longer stopped at survival. He sold his life to drugs. He even used them to gain so-called user experience and sell more professionally. Gradually, the money became enormous. He paid off the debts, bought a house for his mother, and a house for himself. But the memories never disappeared. When everything was finally enough, he made the decision to walk away from it all and return to music. Not just for passion, but because it was the only path to clean money. No more panic at the sight of police. No more wondering every night whether the house would still be there tomorrow. Music, the legitimate path to money. In 1997, he formed the hip-hop duo Playaz Circle with his school friend Earl Conyers, also known as Dollar Boy under the name Tidy Boy. They quickly released the independent album United We Stand, United We Fall and established their place in rap, but established for whom, the streets or themselves. Their name began to spread when Ludacris's label Disturbing the Peace came knocking and signed them. They then released the single Duffel Bag Boy with Lil Wayne rapidly turning their name into a serious phenomenon. A hit big enough to open doors. But doors for who to walk through first. However, working together is always harder than walking alone. After the hit Duffel Bag Boy with Lil Wayne, Playaz Circle seemed ready to explode. But reality was different. Playaz Circle signed with Ludacris's Disturbing the Peace, a label that prioritized party rap and radio-friendly images. Safe, easy to sell. Meanwhile, 2 Chainz wanted to tell more authentic street stories, older, rougher, sharper. But did radio need that roughness? Chainz clearly had solo ambitions. The group, meanwhile, operated on safe logic. The logic of not taking risks. The logic of standing still to avoid being eliminated. After several albums failed to break through, the group slipped into a state of mere existence. Existing, but for what? By the late 2000s, Chainz was already over 30. In rap, that is the age where you either change your fate or disappear. So what choice was left? He quickly went solo and left the label. A decision with no way back. He joined Def Jam Records, a very solid choice. From that point on, not only did his career soar, but the money flowing into his pocket multiplied. When you stand in the right position, everything suddenly becomes simpler. Talking about music, his solo songs repeatedly landed at #1 on the Billboard 200 chart, selling 500,000 copies. He delivered numerous solo and collaborative hits, including I'm Different No Lie, Banza Make Her Dance, Talk Dirty with Jason Derulo, reaching #3, We Own It from Fast and Furious, and many other collaborations. No further introduction needed. The numbers speak for themselves. Spotify shows that he has millions of streams with songs like Money in the Way, surpassing 20 million listens. When music stopped being an experiment, it became a stable cash flow. Very quickly, 2 Chainz made money from multiple sources, from music and from collaborations with other artists. According to disclosed sources, a single performance night can bring in hundreds of thousands to several million USD for the entire production team. Major tours connected to him generate extremely high revenue, often exceeding $500,000 USD per night. This was the phase where he had nothing but money, and a lot of money. But he never let that cash flow sit still. A massive fortune and a cash flow that never runs dry. In rap, spending money is often the fastest way to prove you have won. Cars must be replaced constantly. Chains must be absurdly heavy. A night without spending a few $100,000 means you did not really live. Many rappers escape poverty by spending money as if it will vanish tomorrow. And for quite a few of them, that tomorrow arrived sooner than expected. 2 Chainz saw that script too clearly to find it attractive. When money started flowing steadily, he did not rush to prove he was rich. He understood something very simple, that few in the industry admit: flashing money is easy, keeping money is hard, and more importantly, letting money control you is the fastest path back to the starting line. For someone who once lived with the fear of losing his home, that risk was unacceptable. Instead of turning money into a prop for Image 2, Chainz chose to turn it into a system. Not to show off, but to make sure he never had to return to survival mode like in the past. From that clarity, he stepped into a different role. No longer just a money maker, but a money controller. This shift did not happen through one big strike or a loud deal. It happened quietly across multiple business pillars, each serving a specific role in keeping cash flow independent from creative inspiration. Television was one of them, a lifestyle entertainment TV show. Not just to show expensive things, but to turn his personal image into a product that could be leveraged long-term. When the cameras turn off, the money still moves. When an album is not out, income still exists. Alongside that was Esco Restaurant and Tapas, a choice that sounds grounded, far from the stereotype of a rapper. Restaurants are not quick money. They demand management operations and the ability to absorb losses early on. In return, they create stable legal cash flow tied directly to the local community. For 2 Chainz, it was not just business, but a way to plant roots, something he lacked throughout his childhood. Fashion and seasonal merch became the next pillar, not the type where you just slap a logo on products and sell in bulk. Each merch drop is tied to a moment, a story, or a clear objective, sometimes for profit, sometimes for fundraising. What mattered was that he understood fans are not just buying products, they are buying the feeling of being part of something bigger. Once he grasped that, psychology merch stopped being a side accessory and became a real financial tool. Even quieter was real estate. 2 Chainz did not pour money into unfamiliar areas just because of paper returns. He invested around where he grew up in College Park, houses and plots of land he once only dared to walk past. Now he buys and holds. No flipping, no rushing to sell. Holding to control, holding for stability. His money logic is very clear. Do not rely entirely on albums. Do not tie income tightly to music release cycles. Money must keep moving even without new products. Trap money, once linked to risk and instability, is cleaned through legal businesses. Not to deny the past, but to ensure the past no longer controls him. What stands out is that 2 Chainz did not leave his old neighborhood once he became rich. He did not change zip codes to escape memory. Instead, he bought and held assets around College Park. Money returned to where it was born. And when money stays, influence stays. Jobs, taxes. The presence of someone who walked through the dark side and chose to invest back into that very land. From artist to money controller too, Chainz did more than double his income streams. He completely changed his relationship with money. It was no longer something to spend fast before it disappeared, but a tool to create long-term stability. And this foundation is what allowed him to move into the next chapter, where money is not only kept for himself, but used to keep a roof over someone else's head. Revealing the shocking charity numbers, a move no one expected. If music and business are how 2 Chainz makes money, then charity is where he chooses to use money to answer a question older than fame itself. Success to him never meant having the right to forget where he came from. On the contrary, the more successful he became, the tighter that memory clung to him, like a reminder that some things are never allowed to be abandoned. 2 Chainz once made a very quiet pact with himself. When he had the financial means, he would come back to help people who were in the same position he once was, not to redeem himself, not to seek credit, but because he understands exactly what it feels like to be pushed to the edge, to understand that moment when just one more bill, one more knock on the door can make an entire life collapse. That is why he does not do charity in a scattered cosmetic way. He chooses direct intervention, paying a full year of rent for a veteran who is a single mother. Not temporary assistance, not waiting for approval. Paying in full so that woman has time to regain her footing. And he does not stop at money. He buys furniture and brings it into an apartment that was once empty, so it no longer feels like a place waiting to be abandoned. A sofa, a table, very ordinary things, but they are the line between having a home and being about to lose one. In another case, he went even further. He gave an entire house to a family of 11, not because the story was easy to spread, but because that family was truly on the brink of being pushed onto the street. To 2 Chainz, money only has meaning when it is used at the right moment before things become irreversible. That is not a miracle. That is a decision. The way he uses merch reflects the same mindset. Instead of treating it as a side income, he allocates revenue to support homeless veterans. No detours, no vague gestures. Clothes sold money goes straight into keeping someone from sleeping on the street. Clear and cold the same way he looks at the problem. Other activities carry the same spirit. Toy giveaways are organized directly from trucks driving into poor neighborhoods and handing toys straight to children. No stage, no backdrop. Just kids receiving toys at the right time before the holiday season passes in silence. For HBCU students, he sets up funds for them to pitch business ideas, not giving money unconditionally, giving opportunity. Because he understands deeply how the feeling of having to drop out of school due to circumstances can haunt someone for a lifetime. Music is a passion, but having to abandon the path of education was once a major loss for him, a gap that can never be filled. And because of that, the 2 groups 2 Chainz cares about most have always been the elderly and children, the ones most easily left behind when systems break down. He does not want to see another child grow up through crime just because there were no other choices. He does not want another 2 Chainz to have to take a detour just to survive. When these images are placed side by side, the comparison emerges on its own. Many rappers of the same era spend money on clubs, parties, and lavish images, expenses that photograph well. 2 Chainz is different. He spends money on rent, on household goods, on scholarships, on things that are not camera-friendly, but keep a life from sliding downhill. The core difference lies here. 2 Chainz does not do charity to build an image. He does it because he does not allow himself to forget the past, and because he understands that success only truly has value when it prevents others from having to repeat the path that took him many years to escape. A fallen past. Under the spotlight of his later charitable work, it is easy to forget that 2 Chainz once lived on the opposite side of that story. But he has never tried to erase that past. Instead, he leaves it there like a shadow, always walking behind him. Not to punish himself, but to make sure he never forgets. 2 Chainz has admitted a very raw truth. When he was young, he dealt illegal substances. No detours, no hiding behind vague language. It was not a wrong turn phase told lightly for comfort. It was a real part of life tightly bound to survival. Fast money, steady income. But every dollar came with risk. Not just the risk of getting arrested, but the risk of destroying the very thing he feared losing the most. Drugs did not exist somewhere far away. They were right there in the family kitchen, a place that should have held meals, conversation, and a sense of safety. Instead, there were objects a child should never see, transactions no school teaches, a home that in form still stood there, but in essence was always on the verge of collapse. When the thing that feeds a family is also the thing that can destroy it, the line between right and wrong becomes frighteningly blurred. Money from drugs comes fast. So fast that it convinces people they have found a way out, but it is an exit with no return door. Each day is a gamble. No one knows whether today is peaceful or the end. That instability does not appear in a single moment. It accumulates. It eats away at relationships, at sleep, at the smallest sense of safety. That is the price of making fast money on a path that allows no mistakes. The biggest paradox lies here. That money once helped him pay debts, buy a house, and keep his family from collapsing at that time. But that same money somewhere else was tearing apart another family's home. A brutal loop that very few dare to face directly. You keep your own roof by making someone else's roof unstable. When someone lives long enough inside that loop, they either become numb or find a way out. Chainz chose the second path. He does not need to make public apologies, no long speeches about repentance. Because sometimes regret does not need to be spoken. It shows in how a person reorganizes their life. When music began bringing in clean money, he did not see it as just professional success. To him, it was a door that allowed him to earn money without flinching at the sight of police, without worrying that a knock on the door would end everything. But the past does not disappear just because cash flow changes color. It stays there quietly reminding. And that is why when Chainz began doing charity the way he did, it carried a very different tone. No romanticizing, no retelling the past to seek sympathy. He simply placed the past next to the present, letting others see the reversal for themselves. Back then, money came from something that could push people out of their homes. Today, money is used to keep a roof over a stranger's head. No long explanations needed. That contrast speaks for itself. One side is a kitchen that once held the source of a family's anxiety. The other is an apartment filled with sofas, tables, and time. Time to breathe. Time to not be pushed onto the street. There is one very important thing in this story. Chainz does not tell his past as a badge of honor. He does not dress it up as a street legend. He does not use it to ask for moral exemption. He simply acknowledges that it existed, and from there chooses to live in a way that no one else has to walk that path just because there were no other options. Because he once dropped out, once had to turn to crime to survive, he understands how deep that loss is. Not everyone sees the long-term cost of leaving education and the legitimate path behind. For him, it is a scar. A scar that does not hurt instantly, but hurts in a prolonged, lingering way, and never fully disappears. And because of that, in everything he does later, he pays special attention to creating more choices. For children, for the elderly who can no longer fend for themselves, for those standing at the same crossroads he once faced, a charity figure who once lived among drugs. The phrase sounds like a paradox, but it is precisely that paradox that clarifies the nature of change. Not change for image, not change because of public pressure, but because no one understands the destruction of the old path better than the one who walked it. Here, no grand conclusions are needed. Just look at the chain of actions, from the old kitchen where drugs once existed, to the homes now preserved by his money, from making money by creating instability for others, to using money to create stability for strangers. That reversal does not need to be framed by apologies. It exists as fact. And when audiences look at it, they do not need to be told how to feel. Just place the past next to the present. The rest, the silence between those two images, will do the work on its own. The big message. Trap money has never been a simple concept. It is not born from stable conditions, nor from a fair system. Trap money is the product of neighborhoods that live in a constant state of tension. Places where legitimate opportunity arrives slower than the bills. Places where one wrong step is not a lesson, but a suspended sentence for life. In that context, trap money is not chosen out of ambition, but out of survival. The problem is when someone escapes the trap and holds a large amount of money in their hands, society usually accepts only two ways of telling the story. Either they continue to be boxed in as a symbol of violence and downfall, or they are forced to erase the past pretending nothing ever happened. Both approaches ignore the most important question. Not what trap money is, but what it is used for. Trap money is the product of an unstable system. A system where education does not arrive in time, where families do not have enough cushioning to absorb one more shock, where young people are forced to grow up faster than necessary. Placing all responsibility on the individual in such a system is the easiest way to avoid the problem, and also the easiest way to repeat it. The story of Chainz presents another possibility. That trap money, once removed from its old cycle, can become a tool for correction. Not by denying its origins, but by confronting its consequences. He does not say trap money is right. He only shows that money itself has no morality. Morality lies in the decisions of the person holding it. Here, the difference lies in something very concrete. 1 year of rent, a set of furniture enough to make an apartment no longer empty, a house saved at the right moment. These things do not sound glamorous. They do not create instant images of victory. But precisely because of that, they force people to stop and think. Is 1 year of rent worth more than a car? What does a saved home mean compared to one night of partying? These questions are not meant to judge. They are meant to flip the familiar measure of success. In rap, success is often measured by what can be seen immediately. Cars, jewelry, the amount of money spent in one night. But when those images are placed next to a family that is not pushed onto the street, the value begins to shift. It is no longer about who spends more, but about who leaves less damage behind. Trap money, when used to show off, only extends the old cycle. It reinforces the idea that escaping poverty means separating yourself from those who have not escaped yet. But when trap money is used to keep others from falling, it does something entirely different. It removes one link from the chain of instability. It does not fix the entire system, but it prevents one specific collapse. And sometimes that is enough to keep a life from taking a different path. What matters is that this message does not demand everyone become a philanthropist. It simply raises the responsibility that comes with circumstance. When someone rises from instability, turning their back completely on that place can be understood as self-preservation. But returning investing and intervening is a choice. A moral choice, not because it is praised, but because it breaks the old logic. Trap money is not an excuse for the past. It is also not proof of victory. It is just a tool. And tools do not decide outcomes. The person using them does. When Chainz uses money to keep a roof over a stranger's head, he is not turning himself into a moral model. He is simply proving one very basic thing. That money, no matter where it comes from, can still be used to create stability instead of spectacle. 1 year of rent does not create a legend. A house saved does not make the cover. But they create something more durable than image. Time. Time for a family to stand firm. Time for a child not to grow up too fast. And if trap money can buy that, then perhaps the question is no longer whether it is good or bad, but when it is in our hands, do we choose to repeat the past or to end part of it? The true legacy of a legend. There is a familiar way to measure a rapper's legacy. People count albums, compare charts, mention the number of top hits the weeks at #1, then look at wrists, collars, the amount of jewelry heavy beyond necessity. Those numbers are easy to remember, easy to show off, easy to turn into headlines. But when the stage lights turn off, when the music stops, when an era of a name comes to an end, who do those numbers stay? With For 2 Chainz, the answer was never there. His true legacy is not the number of albums released, not how many times his name was called on the radio, and not the jewelry that once represented, "I made it out." Those things belong to a phase, a moment, and like every other trend, they will be replaced. What lasts longer exists in places few people look when talking about rap. How many families did not have to sleep on the street because someone paid rent in time? How many children still have a room to come back to, instead of being forced to learn survival too early? How many veterans were not abandoned by the system one more time, simply because they no longer had the strength to manage on their own? Those numbers do not appear on charts, but they exist in the lives of real people. Looking back at the entire journey of 2 Chainz, a clear thread emerges. He does not run from the past. He does not deny it. He also does not glorify it as an achievement. He leaves the past where it is as a reminder of what he lost and of what he does not want others to lose again. Success to him is not a privilege to forget where he once stood. It is a responsibility to remember. Trap money eventually gets spent. Whether you spend it fast or slow, sooner or later, the money leaves your hands. Cars get old, jewelry goes out of style. Stories that once made people stare in awe slowly turn into memories. But a roof that is saved
It was very
is
interesting
different.
to me, my man Mike.
It does not disappear when a music season passes. It remains through ordinary mornings, simple dinners, and nights of sleep without constant fear. A roof that is kept can last longer than fame itself. Here the lesson is not about how much charity someone should give or which path they should follow.
True.
The lesson lies in how value is seen. When you have money in your hands, you have the right to choose what it becomes. A decoration for image, or a tool to preserve the most basic element of human life. 2 Chainz does not answer for the audience. He simply leaves behind a very concrete, very ordinary, and very hard to ignore example. You may never step into the world of the trap. You may never stand on the edge of losing your home. But everyone has felt at some point that the system did not protect them. Everyone has feared that one day everything familiar could disappear. And at that point, this story reaches more people than just rap fans. It touches the shared feeling of those who understand that stability is never guaranteed. In the end, a true legacy is not what is written in a Wikipedia biography. It lives in the lives that were not broken because someone chose to use money differently. Not the most visible way, but the most necessary way. And sometimes the greatest legacy a person leaves is not what makes them remembered, but what allows others to continue living normally. The story of 2 Chainz does not end with praise. It ends with an open question for anyone listening. When you look back at your own journey, what do you want to be remembered for? The things you owned or the things you preserved for others? A new car or a door that was never locked on a home? If there is one valuable lesson here, it is this. Success is not about how far you go, but about how you return, who you return to, and what you bring back with you. Trap money can disappear. Fame can fade. But one decision made at the right time and in the right place can change the entire trajectory of a life. Before this video closes, I want to hear your thoughts. To you, what is the true legacy of a successful person? What they achieved for themselves, or what they left for others? If you had money in your hands today, would you use it to show off, or to preserve something more important? Leave a comment below. Your answer might just become the next part of this story.
We encourage viewers to approach the content with an open mind, critical thinking, and to always cross-reference with multiple sources in order to form their own perspective. That's the reality of the game. Fame always comes with a price. If you vibe with the content and want the real uncut stories, go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe to the Black Vault.